Hi, it's Lynn, your Freedom Financial Coach, and it's time for Book Bites. I'd like to do a little bit of a review on a book called The Millionaire Next Door. This was written by Thomas Stanley and William Danko. It was written in 1996, so it's a little bit dated. However, you can find this book free on PDF online. I'm going to put the link down below. These men did a study on the millionaires next door. These are people who aren't flashy. They don't live in a big fancy house. They don't drive a big fancy car. They just live very down to earth, low key. They kind of just blend in to the woodwork, and you wouldn't expect them to be the millionaire next door. So I'd like to read a couple of things out of this book and just let you know a little bit about what it's about. This is a great saying, big hat, no cattle. And this is the way a lot of people live. I just like the expression because it's a good way to remember how a lot of people live. Big hat, no cattle. We first heard this expression from a 35-year-old Texan. He owned a very successful business that rebuilt large diesel engines. But he drove a 10-year-old car and wore jeans and a buckskin shirt. He lived in a modest house in a lower middle class area. His neighbors were postal clerks, firemen, and mechanics. After he substantiated his financial success with actual numbers, this Texan told us, "My business does not look pretty. I don't play the part, don't act it. When my British partners first met me, they thought I was one of the truck drivers. They looked all over my office, looked at everyone but me. Then the senior guy of the group said, 'Oh, we forgot we were in Texas. I don't own big hats, but I have a lot of cattle.' So, big hat, no cattle." Here's some interesting statistics on the Millionaire Next Door. Only 19% receive any income or wealth of any kind from a trust fund or an estate. Fewer than 20% inherited 10% or more of their wealth. More than half never received as much as $1 in inheritance. Fewer than 25% ever received an act of kindness of $10,000 or more from their parents, grandparents, or other relatives. 91% never received as a gift as much as $1 ownership of the family business. Nearly half never received any college tuition from their parents or other relatives. Fewer than 10% believe they will ever receive an inheritance in the future. This really tells a lot about, I would say, the difference in the ideas that were fed by the media about, nobody can make it anymore. I understand that this was written in 1996. Things may be a little bit harder now, but the concepts are still the same. You can still build something from nothing in America. It's an awesome place to be. We're not like so many other countries. So these are people who built something from nothing. And there's a portrait of a millionaire in here. Who is the prototypical American millionaire? I'm going to read some of these here. I won't read all of them, but I'll read some of them to you. The typical, prototypical millionaire is a 57-year-old male married with 3 children. About 1 in 5 is retired. Many of the types of businesses that they're in are classified as dull normal. Welding contractors, auctioneers, rice farmers, owners of mobile home parks, pest controllers, coin and stamp dealers, and paving contractors. Have you ever watched videos of people who, I remember this one video of this African American man who he worked in, it's not like a parking lot attendant. He worked as a parking lot attendant for years and years and years and years. And he just managed his money very well. He invested it, and he was a millionaire next door. And people say, well, you can't do that. Well, the thing about it is that people do it every day. I'm in some groups online that, I mean, people talk about this thing and they do it every day. About half of our wives do not work outside the home. Total annual realized taxable income, this is 1996, remember, $131,000. An average household net worth of $3.7 million. Total annualized realized income is less than 7% of our wealth. In other words, they live on less than 7% of wealth. About 97% are homeowners with an average home of $320,000. Most of us have never felt at a disadvantage because we did not receive any inheritance. And I find this very significant. About 80% of us are first generation affluent. We live well below our means. We wear inexpensive suits, drive American-made cars. Only a minority of us drive the current model year automobile. Only a minority ever lease our motor vehicles. I have read some other books where people say, if you want to be wealthy, you don't have to live below your means. Well, I personally think that that's not really quite right. If you inherited some wealth and if you make a lot of money to begin with, you might be able to, live a pretty fancy lifestyle and still make it. But I think most people have to live below their means, because the vast majority of people, like some of the statistics I was saying about how many people have to live paycheck to paycheck and how many people don't even have $1,000 saved in an emergency fund, most people are going to have to live below their means in order to get ahead. We hold nearly 20% of our household's wealth in transaction securities. Most of our wives are planners and meticulous budgeters. That's the interesting thing, too, about the Millionaire Next Door, is that most of the people that have succeeded this have had both people on board. Husband and wife have both been on board working the same direction. If you've got somebody that you're married to that isn't going in that direction, I'm not saying it's not possible, but it would definitely be harder to get ahead. We've accumulated enough wealth to live without working for 10 or more years. We have more than 6.5 times the level of wealth of our non-millionaire neighbors. Most of their neighbors have chosen, listen to the wording of this, they have chosen to trade wealth for acquiring high-status material possessions. And this is what I'm talking about when I say change your thinking to a thunk. In America, it's really not about not having the wealth as much as people feeling like they have to have certain things to keep up, to look good, to look like they're something. But the moral of the story of this book is, don't look it, be it. As a group, we're fairly well educated. Only 17% of us attended a private school. We believe that education is extremely important. We're fastidious investors. They are tightwads. The reason that they were interviewed by the authors is because they offered them money to be interviewed. And it says they made another offer to donate my name, the money I earned for my interview, to my favorite charity. But I told them, I am my favorite charity. Now, I personally definitely believe in giving to charity. However, we hear this saying about giving back. And we do need to give back. But what giving back, part of that equation is having first. And if we're giving our money to the rich because we are paying interest on credit card debt, we're paying interest on our car payments, things like that, and we're giving our money to the rich, we don't have to give back yet. I'm not saying don't give to charity. I think that it's important. It's an important component that we do give to charity. But I think we need to remember that we need to give to ourselves first. As long as we have these debts going on, we are not in a place to give back. We might be in a place where we can give a little here and there, but giving back means that you have something to give first. So that's just a little bit of a look at the Millionaire Next Door. Like I said, you can check the link down below. There's the free PDF. I really like the moral of the story of this book and the way that it looks about how people think. Change your think into a thunk. Stop feeling like what you see on TV is real. The people that live in those big fancy houses and drive those big fancy cars, unless they have received an inheritance, and some of them, even if they make a really good income, they're still struggling at night, wondering how they're going to pay their bills. Wouldn't you rather be at peace about your finances? So this is the choice that we have. And I understand that sometimes when people are starting out, they feel like they don't have a choice. But the idea is to get that turned around, that thinking turned around to where you understand that we don't need a lot of the things that we think that we need. Once we realize that we don't need all of those things, we can pay our debts down, we can turn the thing around, we can live below our means, like this book talks about, and let everybody else buy all that stuff. Let everybody else buy the big house, the big car, let everybody else look, and you just quietly, been there, done that. I've done those things. I have driven some ratty old cars that were embarrassing to drive around. And why did I do it? Because it got really good gas mileage and because I didn't have a car payment. I know people looked at me kind of funny, but I didn't care because The Millionaire Next Door. Check it out. Thanks for listening.